Hello, and welcome to this Experian Hitwise travel webinar. My name is James Murray. I'm the Marketing Research Analyst here at Experian Hitwise, and today I'm going to be taking you through some of the latest online travel trends and how you can use these to prepare for the year ahead. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, in essence, this webinar is all about how you can be smarter about the way you use data to give you an edge against your competitors. We know that travel is an extremely competitive industry and that it's getting harder to differentiate your brand from the competition. Today, I'm going to show you 3 ways that Hitwise can help you get ahead online. The first is to look back at some of the historical trends to see the predictable patterns that occur each year and how we can use those to forecast what's going to happen in 2012. Then I'm going to have a look at some of the examples in skiing and new travel destinations to show you how you can jump on the fast emerging travel trends that are unpredictable but that can still turn to your advantage. Finally, I'm going to show you how you can use demographics to focus your online targeting for big events like the Olympics. So let's start by looking at some of the historical trends within travel. The nice thing about online travel is it's one of the most mature industries online, and that means that it's had its initial growth spurt and settled into fairly predictable seasonal trends. You can see on this chart that there are clearly developed yearly trends with 2 seasonal peaks in January for the winter season and in July for the summer season. If we delve a little deeper into travel over the last year, we can see the 2 seasonal peaks quite clearly. I've decided to chart both market share of all UK internet visits, which is the line in red, and also total visits, which is the line in blue. This is a new metric that we have available in Hitwise. You can see that broadly speaking the lines follow quite a similar pattern, and it's interesting to see, however, that in a month like February, total visits dropped quite dramatically, but market share of visits is a much more gradual decline. This is because even though total visits to the travel industry has dropped quite significantly, in comparison to other online industries, such as retail or social media, travel hasn't declined by as much, so it still has a relatively high market share, albeit it's still dropping. These are 2 important metrics that can complement each other to give you further insight into the online market. The total visits number gives you the actual movement within travel, whereas the market share gives you the context compared to other online industries. On the flip side of that coin, if you look at the 2 peaks in travel for 2011, market share increased from 3.4% of all online visits to 3.7%, which might not look like much, but when you look at total visits, that 0.3% growth equals 54 million visits, so it's important to take both of these metrics into account. One of the trends that is gradually occurring in travel is that the industry is starting to rely less on its 2 biggest months of the year, and is starting to diversify more across different months. What I've done here is group the market share of visits to the travel industry by month over the last 3 years. If we focus on the core months of January, July and August, you can see that 2011 figures are declining from previous years. If, however, we focus on the months surrounding the seasonal peaks, in November, December, May, June and September, these are all showing year-on-year growth, particularly in the months preceding the seasonal peaks. And what this means is that the seasonal activity in travel is becoming less distinct, and gradually booking travel online is becoming more of a perennial activity. If we go back to our original graph, you can see the strong seasonal peaks which are clear and very much defined. If you extrapolate the data out from the current trends which we've been seeing, we can have a look at what we think the industry in travel is going to look like over the next 3 years. Crucially, the peaks in visits are still going to occur in January and July, but those peaks are much less significant than in previous years, as the surrounding months come closer to the peak months. As years go on, you have much more of a hill shape across the summer months, rather than that mountain shape with the sheer drops either side of the clearly defined peaks. With that in mind, what's going to happen this winter in travel? Looking back at last year, the peak of visits came in the 2nd week of January, when there was 156 million UK internet visits to the industry. But there was an initial spike in traffic around Cyber Monday, which is the biggest pre-Christmas shopping day of the year. What this shows is there's a spillover from retail to travel, and as people finish their Christmas shopping online, they also want to have a look at booking holidays. This trend is likely to be repeated this year. So looking at the historical trends, January 2012 is still going to be the big peak of the winter booking period, but it's gradually becoming less significant as a key month for travel. To that end, we predict that there's going to be 664 million visits in total to the travel industry in January, which represents a 0.5% decrease from January 2011. 68 million hours will also be spent on travel sites, but on average 7 seconds less will be spent per visit. Now that means that people are going to be making fewer visits and spending less time online thinking about travel, so it's crucial to grab customers when you can and make the most of those visits that do come to your website in order to keep conversion rates high. One thing you can do to attract more customers to your website is look at how sources of traffic are changing and adapt your online strategy to match those trends. Here I've looked at the key categories which send traffic to travel websites. Looking at the sources of traffic for November 2010 and 2011, you can see that travel is relying more on search this year than last year, and that a greater proportion of visits are coming from business and finance, entertainment and shopping. So these are the growth channels that you really want to target for affiliates. As a whole though, the industry is relying less on visits from other travel websites, which means people are browsing less between competitive websites to find the best deal. Remember, people are spending less time per visit on travel sites and making fewer visits overall, so if you can't give them exactly what you want, they will move on elsewhere. Social media is also becoming a less significant channel for travel, which is a bit of a surprise. Given its overall growth as a channel, social media still represents a huge opportunity to be exploited by the travel industry. Last year there seemed to be a flurry of social activity for travel brands, but after the initial burst that activity has died down, perhaps as a result of tightening belts and less marketing budget to spend on social activity. However, social media is still the second largest category online after entertainment and the second biggest source of traffic to all websites after search, so this is definitely a channel which is currently being underexploited by the travel industry. I mentioned earlier that as well as looking at the slowly evolving trends, it's also really important to be able to jump on the unpredictable, fast emerging trends, but at the right time. This year's ski season is a perfect example of that, as at the beginning of December there was a panic in European resorts as they had no snow, and as a result, searches for all terms relating to skiing and ski holidays were down 46% year on year. All of a sudden, there was a huge dump of snow, and what looked like a potentially disastrous ski season turned into a flurry of online activity as internet users had the confidence to book their ski holidays in Europe again. In the space of a week, ski searches doubled and actually went 12% ahead of where they were in the same week in 2010. Now, capturing those customers during that crucial period was the time to max out PPC spend, push email campaigns, post messages on Facebook, offer discount deals on Groupon, whatever it took to grab those customers when they wanted to book a holiday. This is a slightly different example of jumping on a trend at the right time, but nevertheless still a valuable lesson to learn. Being aware of what your competitors are up to online can be an excellent opportunity for you to jump on the bandwagon and receive additional traffic off the back of their marketing campaigns. You may have seen this campaign by British Airways, which launched in September, around their slogan "To fly, to serve." You can see in this slide how visits increased to the BA website from the video sites as the advert was hosted on websites like YouTube. Now, just days after the BA campaign went live, easyJet created a mock campaign to promote their discount flights called "To Fly, to Save." Not only did easyJet start receiving traffic from people typing into Google "To Fly, to Serve," they also tripled traffic to their website from email after an email shot went out to customers highlighting the new campaign. easyJet successfully hijacked the BA campaign to serve its own ends by reacting quickly to the emerging online trends. Another thing to watch in the emerging trends is to look for destinations that are becoming increasingly searched for online. This is a list of the top 10 fast-moving countries taken from our quarterly travel review, and you can see that it's the Balkan countries in particular that are growing in popularity as a cheap alternative to Mediterranean holidays. In particular, Kosovo, Albania and Croatia are increasingly being searched for online holidays. Finally, for the last bit of this webinar, I wanted to talk about smarter ways of targeting in order to attain the right sort of customer to your website. The Olympics is clearly going to be an important time for travel, but effective targeting can ensure that your marketing budgets are not going to be squandered on online users that are unlikely to buy your product. What I've done here is look at people visiting the Olympics websites online. And these are going to be the kind of people that, by virtue of their online browsing habits, have expressed an interest in the Olympics and are likely to want to attend London 2012 in some capacity. The first thing to notice is that the split between genders is almost exactly down the middle, so it's really important that all messaging is gender neutral. But perhaps more interesting is where in the country these visits are coming from. You can see on the right hand side here that there's a real north-south divide in interest in the Olympics, with the hotspots in London and the South East. This will be an important information for regional targeting of adverts. Although the highest concentration of Olympic interest is in London itself, these are probably not great people to target for hotels, as they're likely to live close enough to the games not to need accommodation. However, people in the East, South East and South West are much more viable targets for regional targeting campaigns. At Experian, we can go much deeper with demographics with our in-house segmentation system, Mosaic. Mosaic allows us to segment the types of people in the UK at a really granular level. We can benchmark against 450 data variables, from net household income to how many holidays they take a year, and from what papers they read to their sympathies for eco-friendliness. For visits to the Olympic websites, the groups that over-index online are the liberal opinions, alpha territory and professional rewards categories, which, as their title suggests, are among the most wealthy demographics in the UK. So armed with the knowledge that the alpha territory group are much more likely to be interested in the Olympics than other demographic groups, what other characteristics does this group possess? Using the Mosaic tool, we can see that they typically have a very high net household income of over £50,000 a year, and are much more likely to take multiple holidays, spending around £2,500 on each trip. These are exactly the type of people you would want to target around the Olympics for expensive hotels and holidays, as they have the disposable income and the inclination to take a London city break during the Games. Having identified alpha territory as a core group to target, we can now see where else they go online, which will help you identify affiliates that you can work with that this group is going to visit a lot. On the right hand side here, I've done a quick pen portrait of what alpha territory like to do online. So they like using Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they like visiting Time Out, and they read the Times and the Guardian. And on the left hand side, what I've got is looking at the shopping category to see where alpha territory like to shop online. Of course, they want to visit websites like eBay and Amazon just like everybody else, but if you look at the index bar on the right hand side of this table, you can see the websites where alpha territory are more likely to visit than the online average. Here we can see that this group is 58% more likely than the average consumer to visit John Lewis online, and 37% more likely to visit Topshop's website. So these would be good places to target with your online advertising to attract this audience. Alternatively, leveraging other parts of Experian, like digital advertising services, you can target this group directly through advertising portals on Microsoft and Yahoo, giving you direct access to these customers. So that's it for this session. Some of the key points to take away: travel seasonality is shifting, and what that means is that the two big seasonal peaks in January and July are going to become less significant over time as search behaviour diversifies across the months. Over the next few years, seasonal travel peaks and troughs are going to become much less extreme. January 2012, we're going to see fewer visits going to travel sites and less time spent on average visits, which means brands are going to have to work harder to keep customers on their site. Companies will have to be fluid and flexible to adapt to the new emerging trends to make sure that they stay competitive. And people are going to have to use their data in smarter ways in order to make sure that they can keep consumers coming to their websites. Hitwise can clearly help you with that, identifying the new travel trends which are coming out, what consumers are searching for, and where else they go online. Using improved customer targeting with demographic data like Mosaic can also significantly improve your conversion rates. Don't forget that you can find out more about the travel industry online by downloading our quarterly travel report, which is also available for free from the Hitwise UK website. You can also follow us on Twitter on @hitwise_UK for the latest data updates. If you have any further questions on how Hitwise can help you, please feel free to get in touch with your client development manager. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar.